Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in today in our podcast, A Million Stars to Self Empowerment. I wanted to hope and pray and share the idea of being empowered with everyone and hope to get feedback from everyone who has any thoughts or ideas to share. You're very welcome to email me personally. I Abdul Fattah Muhammad, your host of this podcast and the author of the book, A Million Stars to Self Empowerment, at f.muhammad@hotmail.com. And at this point, I wanted to continue as usual to read through uh, the paragraphs pertaining to the introduction of the book prior to getting to chapter one of this series in the or volume one rather. And feel free to visit us and to look at the book at Amazon.com, where the Kindle is actually free, I believe, for a certain amount of time for those who do have Kindle. And we're on Facebook and YouTube, A Million Stars to Self-Empowerment.com, or you can actually visit us on the blog, A Million Stars of Empowerment.com. I believe I got that wrong in the past, but I just wanted to say that that's a blog, A Million Stars of Empowerment.com, and so forth. In terms of the YouTube and the Facebook, they're practically the same as mentioned in the past. I don't think we were wrong for that. The examples contained in this work are real experiences and identify how it is. So I'm going to identify, or I intend on identifying in the series, how I intend to raise myself and loved ones beyond poverty. So, feel free to call me out on that one day, and say, are things working out for you with this idea of, building the habits or having, the finances which you mentioned in your series? Feel free to call me out on that. Anytime you wanna give me a shout out, or you have questions to call me out on anything, feel free to do that. And if you go to the blog, all my other contact information is there as well. So that's the point. But I hope actually, everybody else does better as well. Instead of just being, my idea of empowerment, it's really everybody's idea of how to improve and self-develop themselves. That's practically it, and get, everybody away from being dependent and destitute, which, is very, very uh, uh, sad and strange way of looking at life. I'm going to be dependent and I'm going to be without all throughout my life, and this is supposed to be okay. It's not okay. So I don't see it as okay personally. Somebody else wants to see it as okay, and they feel like that in itself is empowerment. I can't, I can't vouch for that. However, the motivational inspiration to counter self-destruction and counterproductive activities comes from within. I hope that by reading this book, you will do the same for yourself and your loved ones in the best way possible, as mentioned. Concepts provide, concepts prove to work only if they can be placed into action. They must be examined over a period of time. The interesting thing is that concepts and ideas don't test themselves. People must take their theories and identify the nature of their results. The scenarios must be compared by how they are applied and produce the best results. So, this instance, of course, you know, as mentioned in the past, I do believe in the last series, I talked about, how things are going to be placed into our mind, or we're going to have ideas. We're going to have some kind of theories. And in order to see if those theories really work, we can't just feel like, okay, they're in our mind, we have it up here and that's all good. No, it's not all good. Before we know it's all good, we take those ideas and we actually put them to use. We take those ideas and we put them into action. and then we're able to determine, how good of idea that really was. Because until we can put it into action, it still is a mist. It still is, something which has not been done. So we need to, get away from that. Experiences are conditions and situations we face in life at one time or another. So we faced it maybe in the past, or we're facing it currently. And I think I touched on the fact that, certain elements of these ideas, or, of these suggestions, if you may, I am still working out today. I'm still putting them to use as I am talking to you right now. As you're hearing my voice right now, I'm still putting them to use. Some are really working better than others, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to determine what it is that I'll be using and when I'll be using it. So that's what, a very important component of empowerment really is, as mentioned before. Experiences are conditions and situations. I think I read that already. While knowledge and education are based on our own ambitions, needs, and wants. A person can get knowledge. However, the reason why they're getting knowledge, honestly, is not because of the fact that they say, let's go for an experience. Okay, so we're going to gain knowledge. No, that's really not the way it happens. Or, coincidentally, I happen to be walking down the street and I got knowledge, and I'm going to just keep walking down the street and getting more knowledge, and just keep walking, and get more and more and more knowledge, and or somehow education. People don't really do that per se. If it was ever done in the past, I would think that, it was on like maybe a journey or something. People gained, wisdom that way by doing a lot of traveling. And maybe today people are still doing that. But from my experience, when someone is actually going to school to become a doctor, it's because that's what they want to do. So that makes sense. If somebody is going to school because they want to get a better job, that's what they want to do. Okay, so that, in my opinion, differentiates between knowledge and experience. And I'm doing that early on in the book. I'm doing it in the introductory time because. This series is going to have some scenarios which are based on seeking knowledge, and some scenarios which are pure, experiences. Excuse me. Need to just sitting. Moment here. Okay, here we go. That's it. Now, I think that will work. All right. Now, continuing on. The wisdom it takes to see life through is vast. Such information to understand uh, these concepts is broad and has no bounds. Those who don't have wisdom struggle to understand why life has a necessity for knowledge. Some people, tend to ignore the fact that knowledge is not a necessity in life when it actually is. And it reminds me, I was with a couple of my buddies, and we were at a store, and this is back in Africa, and if you know the situation of a lot of storekeepers in Africa, they don't have calculators, or they may just have calculators. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they definitely don't have cash machines in the local stores. Now, if you go to the supermarkets or the mini markets, that's a different story. Now, we were buying something at the store, and the storekeeper, he was trying to calculate a lot of things in his head, and he kept coming on with the wrong figure each time. My buddy said to him, "See how good it is to go to school? Wouldn't it have been nice that you would have been able to do this had you went to school?" Quite a rude statement, but very true. Very true. He wants to run a store. He needs the abilities that it takes to run a store. He needs either a calculator, which is going to be something useful, may come in very much so come in handy. But you also need to know how to use a calculator. I tried to use a calculator, early in my life at the time, and I realized, that I have to learn how to use a calculator. So that practically stands true in so many other situations, in so many different circumstances. Many of us will agree to that, and I think that is again something which is not easily uh, uh, debatable. I think at this time I'm going to start reading about the first chapter of the series, or the first chapter, volume 1, I should say. Sorry about that noise. One moment here. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. The human habits. Now we're going to chapter 1 about the human habits. Let's see. Our habits are the makeup of what we get out of our actions. People give in to many causes for various reasons, and in many instances they get only a bit of what they put into them. If only a person could see that the best type of passion to have is a desire to be better toward everyone and everything that they are involved with. The person always will see that the true benefit in what they do because of that. So, if you realize that the best benefit is to have a desire to be better towards everything and anyone that is involved in your life, then you practically will have and will see that is the best type of passion, or that is the best way of growing passion, I should say. Um, and as I move on, the next sentence does say that person always will see the true benefit in what they do. If you're one who has an intention of making better everything that's around you, and making better situations for not just yourself but everybody else around you, not trying to be selfish, but trying to be an aid and so on, and of assistance to everyone, then you'll find ways to obtain uh, better success and healthy habits as well. Positive behaviors bring positive results, while negative behavior brings the negative results. Impacts of positive results continue to grow. Likewise, the impacts of negative results develops in a person as well. When the human being realizes what the benefits of those results are, the individual generates habits for better success in his or her own way. In other words, to grow best habits, it takes recognition and understanding of who a person is and what makes those habits good and beneficial. In many situations, I have found my best habits to be those which have given me peace of mind and a good feeling at heart. My bad habits do the complete opposite. And habits are that well put in this book. However, I would recommend looking into various analogies, various studies which have been done about habits. I don't think they will contradict what it is that I'm presenting in this. However, I feel that they will elaborate even more. So I would strongly recommend that. Um, the first habit that I mentioned of being a true resource is consistency. How consistent we are with everything that we are involved in, from our education to our work life to our family, to our home, everything that we're involved in. I mean, how consistent are we with it, or with those things? Generally, people who are more consistent with what it is that they're involved in of positive things, as mentioned earlier about growing the positivity, they generally do happen to produce better results on a continuous basis, time after time after time. Anything and everything that you see to be of benefit, if it is not consistent, if it all of a sudden just stops and it's no longer there, and it takes a pause for, and however long it lasts, that's as long of a loss which can be counted. And I remember one of my managers back when I was working in data center operations, where we were producing statements for the bank. He had actually, one of my managers, and I do mention him in the book, so I don't want to give him away right now. A very charismatic gentleman. He came once and he said, you going away to say your prayers does not do us any good, because we expecting a certain productivity out of your machine, and when that machine is down for the hour, however many minutes more you're gone for your prayer, we are losing productivity. So no matter how much you can do uh, before or after, that has no effect. That just means we're losing more. So basically what he's saying is that, as consistent as you generate your statements out of that machine is better for us. But the moment you cut out, for more than 30 minutes or more than an hour, that just means for all that time we're losing. You've cut down on the consistency. The consistency has breached, and therefore it is no longer consistent. Now, I am going to continue on, at least into the next uh, uh, paragraph. And let's see. As a business developer, I needed to create a large clientele basis with several requirements. They had to be local, personal, and suit the criteria for the business. In other words, they all needed to be aware of and willing to take part in the business in some way. The criteria was not the most difficult aspect, because plenty of people knew me in a personal sense already. Here, the paragraph I don't think needs that much elaboration. If by any means there should be some elaboration done, I feel it would be uh, in question or in connection to um, a clientele basis with whatever requirements, primarily getting people, getting clients together, anybody or customers, maybe somewhere along those lines, who would be part of growing the business is practically what needed to be done here. And then having a criteria, having a profile of who these people were. What exactly is your clientele going to mean, or what it is that you're expecting from them. That is, what I'm writing about when I say the criteria of a person, or the criteria of a client, or the criteria of a customer. And I think, in marketing, when it comes to planning or having a market plan, you have to define who your ideal customer is. So that's practically the same thing. Certain questions: who, what, where, and why. Practically, just around that same ideology. At this time, I wanted to close out and just be very thankful again to all of my readers and all of those who have assisted with this effort of self-empowerment. My technical team with Softo Media, I wanted to thank them, and do feel free to visit us on YouTube at A Million Stars to Self-Empowerment, as well as on Facebook. Also, A Million Stars of Empowerment.com, which is the blog. And like us, as mentioned, I think already on Facebook. The book itself is a series. This was volume 1. We just started the chapter on habits, chapter 1. And again, do not hesitate to email me at f.muhammad@hotmail.com. And in closing, again, this is a universal message from one pure heart to another, and it cannot be done with other abilities besides peace, harmony, and passion. So I have a million stars to self-empowerment, and it only takes one to succeed in whatever it is that I'm involved in. And I want for everyone to, say and feel the same way, if not better. I thank you very much for your time and listening. God bless, and you all have a great one.